Kelsey Zeiser with Light Reading for Orb TV, and we're here at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. And I'm joined by Susan Johnson with AT&T. Thanks for joining me, Susan.
Thank you, Kelsey. Thrilled to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you here. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are today.
Okay, well, let me tell you a little bit about what I do now. I work for AT&T, and I actually head up all of our supply chain and all of our global connections management. So my team has a really big checkbook. We spend over $60 billion a year. We negotiate all of AT&T's goods and services, so it's all of our radio access equipment, all of our devices, and everything else across AT&T. And then I also negotiate all of our access and roaming and a lot of our global carrier relationships.
Okay. And how did your previous role in investment banking, where there's perhaps even fewer women than in the tech industry, how'd that prepare you to be a leader in tech?
Yeah, it's a great question because, of course, you never plan your career. It kind of just happens along the way. But a lot of what I need for my job is kind of maybe two sets of skills. One is I've got to be an expert in the business. I've got to understand how we're delivering services. I've got to understand the technology because a lot of what we're buying ties into the overall architecture and technology plan of AT&T. But the other side is it's a lot of what I'd call deal skills. It's a lot of negotiating, it's a lot of how to structure things, it's a lot of valuation of some of the small disruptors that we're bringing into our supply chain ecosystem. So I need a lot of what the investment banking skills that I learned a long time ago. So they've been pretty helpful for me to be able to manage all across supply chain.
That makes a lot of sense. And tell us a little bit more about what your leadership philosophy is.
Leadership. Well, I have a favorite saying that I like to use a lot, which is a leader without followers is just taking a walk. And I think I like that because it reminds us all that it's really about inspiring your team to do better. And at the end of the day, given my job and my level, I'm not doing a lot anymore. What I'm really doing is inspiring people. And I believe kind of in three words that I do in managing my team. One is full transparency. The other is clear accountability, empowerment. And then the other thing I work really hard on is humility. The more senior I get, the more roles I take on, the less I've got to learn from my team and rely on my team. And I think humility is just a critical part of being good at my job and continuing on that learning curve.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And what do you see as some of the biggest changes to how the supply chain functions with the move to 5G and AI and more software-defined functions and other technologies in recent times?
Oh boy, yeah. Just walk around the floor today and you're going to see so much technology. It's just absolutely thrilling. Well, the first thing you'll know changing is with our move to software-defined networking, we are dealing a lot more in software. And it's changing the dynamics of how we buy, and it's changing the dynamics of what we buy. We're totally disaggregating what used to be a router or switch, and we're disaggregating between the software side and then moving to more standardized hardware. That has vast implications in terms of who we buy from and how we buy. The great news is it's allowed us to bring in a lot of very disruptive software companies into the supply chain ecosystem that we never bought from even 5 years ago. So it makes it exciting, makes it interesting. It's putting AT&T more in the role of being an end-to-end integrator because we're introducing new technology and we've got to figure out how the interfaces work and try to move to more standardization. We're also moving less boxes through the supply chain. So it's more about software expertise, but less about just moving boxes around through warehouses and distribution centers, which is going to bring down our overall cost.
And you've had a number of different roles at AT&T. What are some of the biggest lessons you've learned over your career?
Yeah, lessons. First of all, I'm a huge believer in inspiring people. We talked about that early, and I think as I've taken probably 10 different roles at AT&T, what I've learned is the importance of having the right people in the right jobs and getting smarter about understanding people's skill sets, figuring out how to inspire them. And then the other thing I preach to my whole team is given the shift of technology and the speed of transition, we've all got to be continual learners. We say that the shelf life for a lot of education used to be 20 years. Now when we're hiring engineers out of school, the shelf life of that education is probably more like 5.
Okay.
So you've got to continually read, you've got to continually walk around a floor like this, just get smarter and educate yourself. It's kind of fun, but you really need to dedicate the time to continuing to read and educate.
That makes sense. And building off of that, what would be your biggest piece of professional advice for women in the tech or comms industries?
Wow, great question, Kelsey, and I'm thrilled to be able to answer it. So first of all, I'm really thrilled that we're seeing more women in technology. I even walk around Mobile World Congress now, and I see from even 4 years ago, much stronger representation with women, both in terms of the speakers and keynotes, which is fantastic, but also just in terms of representation in the meetings. But my 2 messages to women in tech are: 1, hang on. We need you. Stay in the field. We definitely need more women. And then turn around and try to pull at least 3 people up behind you. I work really actively in mentoring, and I think every woman out there needs to. Women need male mentors and female mentors, but I think all of us working to inspire and help women come along. And then the other thing we're working hard on at AT&T is getting more engineers coming out of college. And sometimes I think we've defined engineering roles too narrowly. And so a lot of girls, particularly in middle school, say, I don't like gaming, I don't want to build an underwater robot, therefore I'm not interested in engineering. So we're trying to do a lot to just redefine what is engineering and learning that girls love to code, but you have to give them something that's more focused on an area of interest to them. So how do you do some designing in code? How do you help an animal hospital in code? These are the things that are resonating more with young girls. And we are ultimately going to need more technology-focused women that also have a broader set of skills.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you also mentioned mentoring. What's your advice for women in maybe identifying a mentor and then also fostering that relationship?
Well, I always laugh because have you ever read the book, Are You My Mother? Well, anyway, I read that to my kids when they were younger. You can't go out and just looking for a random mentor. I really think that you need a mentor and a sponsor that knows you, has worked with you, understands your skill sets, and then you need to make sure you're continuing to connect with him or her in a way to help you identify new job opportunities, identify new career paths, and sort of just keep that relationship going over time.
Great. Well, thanks so much for your time today, Susan. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Kelsey. Great to be here, and thanks so much.